let's talk about mines. So you've got two you want to chat about. So let's
Yeah.
start with one of yours, and then I have one that I want to talk about particularly, and a couple of stories, and then we'll talk about your last one. And if Rachel gets here, we'll talk about hers.
Okay.
All right. So what are you gracing us with today in terms
All
of?
right. Well, my first location is called Turtle Mountain.
Ah,
And this mountain is part of the Canadian Rockies
okay.
that runs through the southwest portion of the province of Alberta. And I have personally been there, and I'll tell you, there's quite the story to this mountain.
Okay.
Because,
I've never been, so interesting.
so there was coal mining taking place on the mountain. They had discovered coal, and they were actually mining into the mountain itself
Oh, okay.
to mine for the coal. And also, just to clarify, pretty much exactly where this particular location is, it's in an area called Crow's Nest Pass.
Okay.
So the southwest portion of Alberta, Crow's Nest Pass, Turtle Mountain. When they started mining, they set up a mining town, obviously,
Hmm.
and the town was called Frank, as in
Okay.
as in
Right.
a man's name, the town of Frank. And boy, oh boy, um, what happened is because they were mining into the mountain itself. What they did is the mining operations weakened the structure of the mountain.
Oh,
And on the early morning of April 29th, 1903, about 4 o'clock in the morning, the entire eastern side of the mountain broke loose
wow.
and avalanched in this landslide that just roared down about 100 kilometers an hour,
Oh, that's terrible.
wiping out the mining town.
Wow.
And apparently it was like 120 million tons of rock
Whew.
that came rushing down. Now this mountain is 7,000 feet tall.
Okay. So it's a good sized mountain.
It's a good, as I say, it's part of the Rocky Mountains. It's a good sized mountain. And as I say, I personally have been there. I was out visiting some family I have that way. Uh, About 10 years ago, 11 years ago. And looking for something to do the one day, they said, well, why don't we go and see Frank Slide, as it's
Oh, that's
known as today.
oh, wow. Wow.
And so we went there, and I was just, wow.
So
The,
they just left everything like,
it's exactly as it was
wow.
in 1903. It just wiped everything out. Of course, now there's an interpretive center detailing the history, and a very interesting museum. I spent a couple hours just going through, looking at the artifacts they had, researching the information they had. They had a diagram of actually what the mining operation looked like inside the mountain.
Wow.
It was a map of the mine. But I'll tell you, when you go there and you see the sheer scale of the destruction, and every one of these gigantic boulders is literally the size of a house.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah,
That's
it's
crazy.
incredible. And having avalanched down, it wiped out all the trees and everything else. And what really struck me, aside from the scale of everything, there was this eerie quiet because there's no trees, so there's no birds chirping. And you just walk through this landscape of gigantic avalanche mountain.
I'm looking at some
And
pictures right now and I'm a little
yeah,
confused. There's a rail line that runs right through the middle of the debris field.
Yeah, that was there before. At the time of the avalanche, that was rebuilt.
Okay.
They rebuilt the rail line. But yeah, so wow, and the town and those that were killed, they're still buried underneath those rocks.
Yeah, well, some of those rocks are just massive. They're as big as the train.
Yeah, well, I say some of them are the size of a house.
Wow.
And so you go there and you can just feel, if there's a haunted location, this is it. You can just feel the aspects of it. It's unbelievable.
Wow. I'm looking at pictures of it in 1903. So it's it's a small town, but still there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's probably 20, 25 buildings on either side of the street. And and there was apparently a Northwest Mounted Police camp there too. Wow. That's pretty terrifying. So, are you still there, Ian? What happened to you? Oh, there you are.
Yep. Well, did I?
No, I'm just looking at pictures, so please keep talking. I'm just checking out the pictures.
Well, that's what happened, and what they're saying, because a friend of my cousin, my cousin was the one I went out to visit. A friend of hers lives in that Crow's Nest Pass area.
Oh, wow. Just
down from the mountain. And it was interesting to hear that everybody who lives in that area now, there is a little town that's been built up, in modern times, that's there now. And none of them can get insurance on their homes.
Wow.
Because the mountain is so weakened. There is the threat that there could be another avalanche sometime in the future, and nobody can get any home insurance.
Wow.
Who was within range of this mountain for fear of another landslide.
It's pretty crazy, actually. I'm just looking at the pictures, and it's just like, whoa. It's like the entire side of the mountain is gone.
Oh, it is? Yeah.
From the top to the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, I say the entire side of the mountain, 7,000 feet high, broke loose. And if you go onto Google Maps and kind of look at the above satellite image, you can really see the entire scale
of how big it is. It's
hard to how big it actually is. Yeah,
it's hard to tell from the pictures. I mean, there's people standing beside some of these boulders, and they're just, like you said, the size of a house. But with the train going through the middle of it, you can really get a perspective as to how huge some of these boulders are, because they're literally larger than the engine of the train. They're that big. So they're huge.
Yeah, it was something to see. If you ever get the chance to go out there, I recommend taking a visit. It's, whether you're interested in the paranormal or not.
Yeah, the site itself just
everybody, if even if you're just interested in history, you get the chance to go out to see Frank Slide at Turtle Mountain. Go ahead and do it.
Yeah, it looks like a crazy site. So do you know how many people were living in the town at the time?
Approximately 100 people lived in the path of the destruction.
Wow.
Located between the rail tracks and the river that's there.
Okay.
And it says the death toll is uncertain, but estimates range between 70 and 90.
Okay, so, and I wonder, obviously there might have been people down in the mine as well.
Initial news reports state that between 50 and 60 miners were within the mountain.
Wow.
And had been buried with no hope of survival.
Yeah, well, you would never get them out from there. So, yeah, I'm looking at a really old picture here from it looks like it's 1902. And it's like a distance picture, so I've blown it up really big to look at the town, but it's literally goes right along the base. And So it's kind of interesting because it must have carried on for some distance, because what I'm looking at here looks like it's still remained after the slide, because you can see that the mountain has given way in this picture. And so there seems to be a part of the town that's still there, or was there then. I guess when you went, was part of it still existing or no?
No.
No.
Any buildings that would have survived, are long gone.
Okay.
You go in there, yes, the newly rebuilt, well, maybe not new now, but the train tracks go through. You got the little river. There's the new modern interpretive center. Right. And then there's the current town, whatever it's called now, that's kind of farther back.
I think it's still Crow's Nest Pass is what they're saying. It still seems to be I don't know about this Frank. I mean, obviously the town of Frank no longer exists, but.
Yeah, because that was the mining town itself, was Frank.
Mm-hmm. So there was, okay, I see. Oh, it's showing, actually, I'm watching this little video that showed how far the slide, wow, the slide took out the town, pretty much.
Yeah. So as I say, go on to Google Maps and take a look at the satellite image from above. And you can see exactly how far that actually came rushing down and whoosh, almost went up against the base of the next mountain.
Oh, wow. It's terrifying, like to see the amount along the river that it took out. Like, it's huge. So, and Rachel's with us apparently. So,
good.
Her in, but yeah. So keep telling us, because this is really fascinating, and I'm glad you're covering this one. So let's talk more.
Yeah, that's without reading off of an entire article on Wikipedia or whatever. That's what I've got to say about that. As I say, I've been there. It was pretty amazing to look at, and as I say, there's still the chance of a future avalanche taking place.
Yeah, it's pretty terrifying looking. So what's the stories then? So we had about 70 to 90 people. Most of them sound like they were trapped inside the mine. And so what, I guess you're not, not like myself, but when you were there, were you getting any kind of weird, I haven't been, but it would be one of those places where I'm sure I would pick up on things and
Oh, I'm sure you would. No, for me, as I say, it was just the strange silence.
Oh, okay.
No birds, nothing. You go in there and you can just hear the wind.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I know that one. Yeah, where it just seems like it's unnaturally quiet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm letting Rachel into the room. So here she is. Hey, she's going to join us. But so when you went to the museum, did they talk about potentially haunted location, or did they stay away from that and just talk about?
No, it was just a historical display of, here's what happened, here's why it happened. No, there was nothing paranormal in their displays at all.
But in your research, hello.
I didn't mean to interrupt you both. I apologize for that. How are you?
Good.
So we're talking about, Ian's telling us about this really fascinating mine called Frank's Slide. Well, at the time it was called Frank's Town in Alberta. But
right, okay.
So he's giving us a lowdown because he's been there. So,
oh, you've been there?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So what is it that struck you as unusual about the mine, or was it simply that there was a lot of accidents?
Unusual. There's an interesting word.